Have you ever watched a brutal movie scene and thought, that's unbelievable, nobody would actually survive that? A scene where a young girl loses both of her arms, gets thrown off a cliff, and is forced to climb back up to get help? Crazy, isn't it? That's exactly what happened to 15-year-old Mary Vincent. Today, we'll be talking about Lawrence Singleton, the Mad Chopper, and the incredible survival story of Mary Vincent. In September of 1978, Mary Vincent was on her way to Los Angeles. She was 15 years old and had run away from home. As she held up a sign that said heading south while she walked along the freeway, she was hoping that this would be the start of a promising dance career. A man named Lawrence Singleton stopped to pick her up and she accepted the ride, although feeling a little uncomfortable since he said there was only room for her in this vehicle and not for the other two teens looking for a ride as well. Singleton made his young passenger feel comfortable very quickly, however. Vincent felt so at ease with this kindly old man that before long she fell asleep. When Vincent awoke, she realized they were going the wrong way, and her efforts to alert Singleton of the error resulted in excuses and reassurances from him. They eventually came to a stop at a rest area for a bathroom break. Vincent was beginning to feel uneasy about the situation, so when she saw her shoe untied, she hopped out of the car to tie it should she need to make a run for it. Before she knew what was happening, Vincent crumpled to the ground. Singleton had hit her over the head with a sledgehammer. She awoke tied up in the back of the van. Each arm was fastened to the opposite side of the van wall. Singleton would sexually assault her again and again over the course of the night. The next morning, Vincent begged for her release, to which Singleton replied, "If you want to be set free, I'll set you free," before proceeding to hack both of her arms off with an axe. Vincent was slipping in and out of consciousness now, and she could barely tell anyone what was going on when Singleton tossed her over the edge of a 30-foot cliff into Del Puerto Canyon. Nude, badly hurt, and unbelievably traumatized, Vincent almost let the demise tugging at the edge of her consciousness take over. As she thought about the other girls who might fall into the hands of Singleton should she not report him, though, she realized she had to fight to survive. With nothing but bloody stumps for arms, Vincent managed to climb back up the cliff and make her way back to the road. The car she managed to flag down for help saw Vincent holding up her severed arms. She was trying to make sure the muscles didn't fall out and to prevent any further blood loss. The Good Samaritan brought Vincent to a nearby hospital where they frantically worked to save her life. Vincent would go on to generate a detailed composite sketch and description of her attacker, which would go on to be recognized by a neighbor of Larry's, and he would be arrested and put on trial for his attack on Mary Vincent 6 months later, where her testimony successfully put him behind bars. Unfortunately, however, he would only be sentenced to 14 years. The judge presiding over the court remarked, "If I had the power, I would send him to prison for the rest of his natural life." Larry would go on to stun absolutely no one by admitting he whispered the following to Mary while in court: "I'll finish the job if it takes the rest of my life." Mary and the public were understandably upset over the sentence, feeling it too short and unjust. This would lead to the passing of the Singleton Bill, which ceases the early release of criminals who used torture in their crime, and allowed for a 25 to life sentence as well. Larry Singleton would go on to only serve 8 years of the 14-year sentence based on his good behavior and performing his job well as a teacher's aide in prison. He would eventually be allowed to move back to his native state of Florida, where he would continue to get in trouble. In 1990, getting convicted of a theft twice, serving a 60-day sentence. Both theft charges were for small, inexpensive objects. On February 19, 1997, in Tampa, Florida, a local house painter had noticed a horrific scene unfolding inside a nearby residence. He quickly called police and described to them the disturbing details. A nude man, covered in blood, was repeatedly stabbing a nude woman who lay motionless on the sofa. The nude man, who continued on with his stabbing frenzy, was none other than Larry Singleton. The victim was 31-year-old Roxanne Hayes. She was a mother of 3 and doing what she could to support her family. She had agreed to meet with Larry for $20. Larry would go on to claim that she tried to take more than the agreed-upon amount from his wallet, and a struggle ensued. While he was trying to get a knife from her, she wound up being stabbed multiple times. His story is clearly made up due to the testimony of the house painter. An unconscious victim cannot struggle with a killer. Shortly after the incident, Larry would attempt to take his own life, but was unsuccessful, and he would be housed in a psychiatric hospital for some time before heading to jail to await trial. For the trial, Mary Vincent would fly from California to Florida to testify on behalf of Roxanne and to ensure this would never happen again. She would go into great detail on what happened to her and paint a very clear picture why the ultimate punishment should be handed down to Singleton. I was raped, I had my arms cut off, he used a hatchet, and he left me to die. Singleton's defense claims that he never meant to kill Roxanne, that it was just a mistake due to too much emotion at the time. It took the jury 4 hours to come to a decision of guilty. On April 14th, 1998, Singleton was given a death sentence for the senseless and horrific murder of Roxanne Hayes, and on December 28th, 2001, while serving his sentence and awaiting his death, he died from cancer at the age of 74. Thank you for tuning in, guys. If you enjoyed today's video, leave a like down below and subscribe. It means a lot, and it helps us to be able to make more videos like this in the future. Have a great day, and try not to get murdered.